Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Leadership Lessons with Cheri, the place where you can get those little nuggets of information to help you be the leader you were born to be. So I have to share a little story with you that made my heart happy as a leader, and I think many of you can probably resonate with this. In my career, I've worked with 3 different schools where I took them from failing to successful, right? And in the process, of course, over the years. Now, one school, I was only there for 2 years, so we saw growth both years. So I'll take that one out. But that was sandwiched in the middle, right? So my first school and my last school, I was there for a more significant amount of time, 6 years, 7 technically at the first school. I was the assistant principal and then moved into the principalship, 6 years as the principal. And then in my final school, I was there 8 years. And during the time that both of those schools, they're both here in Houston, Texas, and we have things, right? Just like everybody does, but we have kind of big things. When I had my first school, we went through receiving students from New Orleans when they had Hurricane Katrina. We then had Hurricane Rita, which wasn't a significant storm for us, but had a significant impact because everybody was worried about what had just happened with Katrina. We had, it was in a neighborhood with a lot of crime. So we had bank robberies, we had shootings, we had some different things like that. All of these things would disrupt, things that we were doing within the schoolhouse. We went through Hurricane Ike, which was very devastating. We were out of school for almost 3 weeks, and that really was a setback for us in that area. We had just different things over the years there. And then, of course, with the final school, we went through so many things. We had Harvey, we had the pandemic, we had a year where we were missing school quite a bit because of the chemical companies here in the Houston area. And those types of setbacks then cause things to go up and down, right? When you're in school consistent and then you're not in school consistent, and academics are going to be affected, behavior is going to be affected, climate and culture of your staff will be affected, so many different things. Within the time at this final school as well, I had one assistant principal for the first 6 years, and then I had a different one year 7 and a different one year 8. And that affects everything that we do, right? Because you have to think about the work you do differently, the training you do differently, rebuilding the climate and culture and things like that. I share all that to say that leadership is super important when it comes to dealing with those types of things, because even though it was at a school, those things affected so many people right here in the Houston area, right? And if you might be in a place where you get a lot of bad weather in the winter, that's going to affect. I remember my 2 years in Des Moines, the first year, we had a lot of days off for cold weather because it was cold. Now, when I say cold, I'm talking below 0 cold to where buses wouldn't start. So when the buses wouldn't start, the kids couldn't get to school, right? So anywhere you are, you're going to have these significant events that happen that are completely out of your control that will have an effect on what you do day to day, and then overall your end result. As a leader, you have to be prepared for that. And you have to think about how you're going to handle. And it brings me to this week's topic, which I say what leadership character says about you. Now, character, clearly, nobody wants a leader that's going to be just out for themselves, very selfish, very bossy, managerial. They don't have any empathy for anyone. So there's that kind of character. But then there's also that character of grit and perseverance and problem solving and being able to really understand your people so that you can eventually empower them to do the work that you need them to do. So let's think about leadership character for a little bit. And I'm going to ask you a few questions this week that I want you to reflect on, because I can't teach you to have a good character. I always said when I hired staff, I would say to them, I can teach you how to teach. I can teach you to write a lesson plan. I can teach you to develop a management system for your classroom. I cannot teach you to care. I cannot teach you to want to do your best. Those are character traits that I can't teach you. You can learn them, you can develop them, but I don't know if I can necessarily say, okay, you're going to care. Here's how you do it. You have to have experiences, my opinion only, in your life that helps you get there. Now, can you learn things from people as part of those experiences? Yes, you can. And that's why I want to talk about this today, because I want to give you some questions to start asking yourself as you're thinking about your own leadership character. And this is a good time to reflect on this, because so many people get to this end of the calendar year and start to think about reflections, right? How did we do as an organization? Did we meet our goals? And I was involved in a session last week with one of my coaches where we all have heard of a SWOT analysis before. We do SWOT analysis on our organizations, but she in particular not only does it on an organization, but she also does it on the leader. And I felt like that was just powerful. I felt like that was something that I definitely want to incorporate into the work that I do with small businesses and schools, because we think so much about the organization itself, but the leader is the key person in that organization, right? You're going to have so much influence over everyone else. So I want you to ask yourself these questions. Number one, why? Why did you get into leadership? Spending time thinking about your why is so important. First off, if you don't know your why, then we've got a lot of work to do, right? But digging deep into really thinking about your why and keeping it to the forefront of your thoughts when you are dealing with some tough situations, like I explained earlier, is really going to be crucial to keeping you on track for staying on course during those challenging times. Some people go into their positions because somebody put them there. I know for myself, at first, somebody had come to me and said, this is what you're going to do. We're going to remove you from the classroom and you're going to start going into this position. And I struggled at first because I didn't know if this was really what I wanted to do. My why at that point in time for me was to teach children in the classroom. I had to then step back and reflect on, why would this be something I wanted to do? And I developed a new why. I embraced a new why. And that became, I wanted to affect more students every year rather than just the ones in a classroom of 22. Now I had an effect on more. If you've not sat down and really thought about your why, or maybe you haven't visited your why in a period of time, this is the perfect time of year to do that. Take a moment, be by yourself, be honest with yourself, and really dig deep into your why. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, what do I enjoy about my leadership position? And this could be very open. I don't want to tell you it has to be a set of tasks or a set of things you get to do. It can just be whatever it is you enjoy about your position. What I enjoyed was building the relationships. I enjoyed helping people problem solve when things started to go sideways. I enjoyed seeing the faces of our kids and our teachers and our community members when things were going in the right direction. You can see that all of those things are very, very different, and that's okay. But if you don't know what you enjoy, your life is going to be pretty miserable in that position. And nobody wants to be working with a miserable leader, right? Nobody wants to be walking into an organization where the leader is having an attitude problem, is having a rough time, And we all go through rough times. So please don't hear me say that you never can. But if you really stay focused again on the things that you enjoy, when we get to question number 3 here in about 32 seconds, the negatives aren't going to seem quite so bad, or at least they'll seem a little more manageable. So as I said, question number 3 now needs to be, what are the things I don't enjoy? And the reason I have you write those down, I want you to be real with yourself. Know what your limits are, right? You probably don't enjoy some of these things because maybe you don't know how to do them quite as well. Or maybe you don't enjoy these kinds of things because they are hard. I know for me, myself, one of the things that I didn't enjoy was having to sit in parent conferences when a teacher had done something that the parent wasn't happy with. The reason I didn't enjoy those, it was a problem-solving opportunity, but it was hard sometimes, especially when you have to support your community and you have to support your staff. And if you can see where the problem was, because after doing it so long, you could find those pretty easily. When it was hard to support one or the other, that's what made them hard. Those are the ones I didn't enjoy, if that makes sense. So you've talked about your why, or you've reflected on your why. You've reflected on what you love about your leadership position, on the things you don't love about your leadership position. And then I want you to sit down and I want you to think about, what are some things that I could delegate and start to build trust in my staff of the things that I don't know how to do as well, or that I don't enjoy doing. So for example, I did not know how, and I still work on this, to do formulas with spreadsheets, right? With Excel spreadsheets. So I would spend so much time working on data. Now, I was old school when I was in the classroom and even into my first couple of years as a leader. And so knowing how to do formulas and collecting data and presenting the data to staff that makes sense to them is a norm for me, doing it by hand. But it took so much time. And try as I might, I just could not figure out how to make those spreadsheets do it automatically for me. It was something that was time consuming, and I got to a point of being frustrated sometimes because it was very hard. I would delegate that to someone. Make me this kind of spreadsheet that can do this for us. It made everybody's life a whole lot easier. And if your life is easier in just little ways, it reduces stress, right? And overwhelm. And then that helps your character stay on the positive side. Okay. So all of these kind of have those ripple effects. And then finally, I want you to ask yourself, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? I think this one is real important as a leader, because if you're thinking that you're going to be moving in a different direction, growing, right? Even me, myself, if I would ask myself this question in 2020, and I knew in 2023, I was leaving the schoolhouse to do something different. Clearly, that was going to be a big growth for me, right? A big learning curve for me. I was going to have to work on things. I was going to have to work on structures, being focused on things, getting back into that heavy learning mindset, right? And those are all character things that are going to help you become a better leader. You continue to grow, you continue to learn. If you would ask me this in 2020, I might have said, I want to be a director of elementary education. Okay, that's going to take me out of my comfort zone as well. So now I'm going to start thinking about, oh, now I may want to start mentoring informally other principals. I want to start empowering my colleagues to try new things. I might want to be a sounding board for them. Now, when I talk about your leadership character, as you can see from these 5 questions, what is your why? What are the things you love about your leadership position? What are the things you don't love about your leadership position? What could you start delegating out to empower others? And where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? These then will help you move forward and think about, okay, what are my goals? What are my goals for the upcoming year? When it comes to my leadership character, what am I known as? Almost as if it's your brand, right? What do I want to be known for? What do I need to improve on? What is important to me as a leader, as I lead and empower my people? I think it's a different way to think about all of this because, of course, I could have sat here today and said, as a leader, you need to be trusted, you need to have integrity, you need to blah, blah, blah. But I want you to really think about what makes sense to you. Clearly, we have to be trusted and we have to have integrity and we have to do the right thing, even when no one is looking, right? And we have to be confident and we have to be empathetic and all of those things. Those are character traits as well. However, what's most important about your leadership character is that you become known for being that leader that people want to get on board with you, that you start building your brand so that people know what you stand for. If you were to ask any of my teachers from this last school, even the ones that didn't necessarily agree with everything I said, people would say, she is going to work hard to build relationships. She is going to step in when she needs to step in and step back when she needs to step back. And she's going to love and empower us to do our best when we want to do the good work with kids. And they're finally going to say, and she's there to support us when we don't know something, when we're struggling, when we're having challenges, to try to push us to be better. I feel confident that that's what my staff would say. Having said that, that's just a little piece for you, different way to think about your leadership character this week. But I think it's so important that you really get real with yourself. And it's all going to start with that why. Why did you get into this to begin with? And really getting real with yourself so that you can start moving forward. Okay, y'all, it is Thanksgiving week here in the United States. I'm recording on Monday the 20th. By the time this drops, you'll be eating your turkey or whatever Thanksgiving holiday traditions that you do, and hopefully spending some time with friends and family and giving yourself a much needed break during this holiday season. But most importantly, make sure to give yourself a little self-love and a little self-care as well, because as leaders, we tend to want to take care of everybody else, right? And we forget to take care of us. So don't forget to do that. And I will see you back here on Leadership Lessons with Cheri next week with another great tip. Have a great week, y'all.